because I want to move on to the life stages part. This is the second element. Strauss and Howe suggest that an individual's life is conveniently divided into 4 stages. So it's not just young, adult, and old. We start with the learning years. This is the time of dependence. This is obviously our childhoods. Then there's a rising adulthood, the 20 to 40 year period. And that's the period where we get our educations, we get settled, we might start families, we get further degrees, we get some more degrees. No, I'm sorry. But, we start families, we get our jobs, we learn a lot. We're middle management maybe. We're teaching at associate levels. We're doing these things, learning, and being very active and establishing our lives. And then around 40, we realize, oh, I know something. Maybe you have kids and they're in school now. Maybe they're headed to college soon. And this is a time when you begin to give back in big ways. And you say, I'm not the grunt anymore. I know what I'm doing. I can lead the committee. And then elderhood, and remember, this is a theory from about 20 years ago. It suggests that elderhood starts at age of about 65, at retirement age. Now, one thing we do know, of course, is that we're aging more slowly and we're living longer. So sometimes this period of leadership may last until 70 or 75, and we recognize that this is shifting. However, at some point, you're retired, you're tired, your kids are out, you've got grandkids running around, you might be a snowbird. You don't have time to go to a weekly committee meeting anymore. So it's important to remember that we have roles that we play in these different life stages. Now the third element, and this is kind of the most complicated, are the turnings. What Strauss and Howe looked at when they look at history and these cohorts over time is that it seems that historically, in our culture, in our politics, in our current events, that the mood and the atmosphere and what happens also is cyclical. And they call them turning. So just as much as a human life lasts, somewhere around 90 years, so does a full cycle. So the first turning is a high period. This is an area where institutions are strong and individualism is a little more weak. This is where society is confident about where they are, where they want to go, although the people who are marginalized absolutely feel stifled by the conformity. Those people who don't fit into this bigger institutional image begin to feel something's not right. Now, our most recent first turning was that period between the end of World War II and the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It makes sense. This is where we built these big institutions. This is where we built the interstate highway system. We had incredible prosperity. The military-industrial complex, created an incredible number of jobs. We built institutions. A lot of those ugly buildings from the 50s and 60s on college campuses were built in this time of high prosperity, of high collective, yes, we can build institutions time. We were built as an association in this time. And I'll get back to that a little bit. But what happens after about 20 years or so is that some awakenings happen. So there's people on the margins who begin to say, something's not right. I don't fit in. Have an awakening. Institutions begin to be attacked in the name of personal autonomy and spiritual autonomy. Just when the society is reaching the high tide, people suddenly tire of that social discipline, that big umbrella, and they want to recapture a sense of self and a sense of purpose. And so it's a time of awakening. This is a time that young activists look back on the previous high as a time of poverty, cultural poverty and spiritual poverty, and they're going to change the world. They've awakened. It's not a mistake that that next era was what we call the consciousness revolution. Civil rights, women's rights, revolts, environmental focus. And as things get awakened, as we poke at the beast, we enter a period of unraveling. This is where we know the institutions have been tipped on their sides, and institutions aren't trusted anymore. Individuals are strong and flourishing. The highs that come at, let me repeat that. The unravelings come when the society wants to enjoy for themselves. This is the me generation, what we saw, the long boom. Everybody was out for themselves. We saw deregulation. We saw changes in banking so that people could make their own wealth. People could make their own way in the world. They took, we have freedom, we can be individual. Which leads us to crisis. Institutions are destroyed. And new institutions are rebuilt. The people in crisis begin to reimagine what community looks like. They begin to say, right, we went too far on the pendulum of individualism. Maybe we need to shift back. So you can see how that leads back to a high first turning where suddenly we're building institutions again, right? The previous fourth turning started on October 29th, 1929. We don't know for certain when this fourth turning began. And we often don't know until we're well past it. That was the moment. Right now, generational experts are suggesting it could be 9/11. It could be the start of the Iraq War, or it could be as late as the inauguration of Barack Obama. But sometime in the last 10, 11 years, we have shifted from simply unraveling into full crisis mode. And this is the environment that we are trying to lead in now. I know. Sorry, it's bad news right now. I'm not going to lie to you. We know, and we know this. We know that we're in disarray. We know our world is screaming, crying for help. You know? And so this is part of what leadership is about.